My experience has been is that there's sort of a baseline understanding of ketogenic way of, I don't like calling it a diet. I mean, everything you eat is a diet. So I think we can agree on that, but it really is a lifestyle. That's just my own personal perception, because it's not something I'm going to try it for a day or two, or, it really is something you kind of have to completely embrace and incorporate. But can you sort of help make that distinction? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of things that just aren't really perceived maybe quite accurately, like ketogenic diet, kind of like, it's viewed more, I think, in a lot of ways as how can I quickly lose some weight for that holiday?
Yeah. When someone mentions the ketogenic diet, I think of a medical intervention, an anti-seizure strategy. But over the last couple of years, there's been emerging applications to where even on PubMed, you find about almost 24 different applications of the ketogenic diet, from type 2 diabetes, obesity, weight loss. And it's not a fad diet because it actually has a very good proven track record, but the proven track record is more for neurological effects. More recently, advocates 10 years ago was saying it was proven for weight loss and type 2 diabetes. I would sort of disagree with that, but I would say the last 2 years has demonstrated that it is a viable strategy for weight loss based upon the observation that it is a means to calorie restriction. So no matter what, so the advocates of the diet, which I did not agree with, was saying that there was a metabolic advantage to being on a ketogenic diet. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the data really strongly supports that. If there is, it's a very minor metabolic, you do, urinate out ketones, and they are an energy containing substance, and, insulin is lower on the diet typically. But I think the diet's, its main effect is really that if you're removing foods that are very tasty, you tend to eat a little bit less of them. And also your blood glucose levels are controlled. You have less postprandial oscillations in your glucose, and they tend to trigger your appetite and you have cravings. So if it doesn't abolish them, but it significantly attenuates physiological changes in your glucose and appetite that would trigger cravings and eating behavior. So in that way, the ketogenic diet kind of moderates. It helps the person implementing it control their diet without their appetite, without their appetite controlling them. But to a lot of advocates out there, most of them will say there's a metabolic advantage. And I kind of agree with Lane that I am in the camp of the calories in, calories out. More or less, if there is an effect, the thermic effect of protein, for example, is real, but it's kind of small, relatively speaking. From a practical point of view, it offers the practitioner or, the doctor implementing it, or the patient, a strategy that would allow adherence to a calorie restriction paradigm.
Okay. Cool. That sort of leads us into myth versus fact. So is there any, in terms of, the myths out there that, because there's a lot of, I think it's like anything new, that when something sort of makes the general public forum, a lot of people jump on board. I mean, you can go to almost any social media platform and there's ketogenic diet experts everywhere, self-proclaimed. Yeah. So can you clear up some of the myths, versus the facts? I mean, you've kind of done that, but is there anything else you can add to that?
Yeah, well, I think a ketogenic diet is defined specifically by a biomarker in the blood, ketones. And a lot of people are following low carb, and I think you do get benefits from a low carb diet. But the added benefits you get from a ketogenic diet from the standpoint of clinical, and maybe it spans into the healthy, normal subject too, is that elevating ketones really, it represents an alternative fuel for your brain. So if your ketones are elevated, you're less likely to be reactive to hypoglycemic episodes, which are a consequence of calorie restriction. And if you are doing the diet to lose weight, to induce a body composition alteration, you can't get around that you're going to have to reduce your calories.